In this episode, I chat with Darren Tang about his bowling journey and what it takes to bowl on the PBA Tour and more. I'm Timm Young, and this is The Bowler's Mind. Hey, Darren, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, good to be here.
Huge fan of the YouTube channel. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel and kind of take that journey?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to share what I had to give, whether it be knowledge, entertainment, just showing a different side of the bowling world.
Right.
Obviously a lot of people don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff at PBA events. And just we're not as accessible, I guess. Well, we as professional bowlers are more accessible than other professional athletes in other sports. So I just thought it was a good opportunity to do that. But a lot of it was just to give back to the game that gave me so much.
So some of your videos, like one of your recent ones where you bowled your girlfriend and I think you lost a little bit of money on that.
Yeah, relative, a little.
When you bowl in league, but then you're doing these things for YouTube, I guess you're not too worried about your average or winning in league?
No, not at all. And it's just not. It's all for entertainment.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna use this average for competition and things like that.
Right.
Like I probably won't ever bowl a handicap event or a capped event.
Right.
Unless, a friend wants to bowl, but even then I'll come in scratch.
Right.
Like it's not. Yeah, a lot of people. I see a couple of comments sometimes.
Yeah,
Like, "Oh, man, you're sandbagging. You're not trying your hardest."
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I mean, we're trying to appease the masses. We're not really trying to make money. And this is the league is about as easygoing, low profile as possible.
Yeah.
You win the league, you basically win your money back for the league.
Right.
So,
I got you.
it's not like there's a ton of money involved.
As long as you sandbag all the time, I guess no one gets mad at you because you never
Sure.
unleash on them.
Yeah. And my sandbagging in this league is averaging 234 instead of 246. So I'm like, what are you guys really complaining about?
I was going to ask you where your nickname, the Vitamin D Tang, came from. Obviously, vitamin D, but how did you come up with that originally?
Wow, yeah. I actually didn't come up with it.
Okay.
It was made for me. I was never really quick to hop on the social media train, so I was late to Facebook, I was late to Instagram, and that's kind of where the Vitamin D Tank thing came from. I had some friends make an Instagram for me, and they came up with that, and I just rolled with it.
Okay. Why do you think you've been so successful on YouTube? I see you've got the silver plaque up there behind you.
Yeah. We just stand out. I didn't want to do it unless I wanted to do it the right way. I didn't want to just I didn't want to be the one to edit my videos. I wanted somebody that could do it to the best of their abilities and did it as their profession. So my editor, Jesse, well, he's now lead. I don't know what title he's
got an official title
wants
now
to be called, but yeah, he's got an official title. He's the lead creative content lead. We'll go with that. Something like that. But he's a big reason why our videos are different from the rest, and definitely wouldn't have grown as fast without what he had to offer.
What advice would you give someone who's maybe a bowler or for anyone who's wanting to get their voice out there? What have you learned along the way? What has helped you be successful? Obviously, the quality of your videos, that sort of thing. But what have you learned along the way that you would give advice to someone starting out?
Don't be afraid to invest in what you believe in.
Okay.
You don't want to nickel and dime this. The reason why the video quality is different from other channels is because of the investment. Obviously, the knowledge and the expertise behind it as well, but just the quality of the videos are a lot higher than other bowling videos you see on the internet. Like, for example, my buddy 220 average bowler. I love his videos, but they're still recording on phones. And my advice to him, I don't know how much his channel's making, but just reinvest in the channel. And that's not just him, just everybody. Reinvest in what you're working towards, what you're working on, and the payoff. It'll pay dividends.
Out of curiosity, with YouTube specifically, what level of follower do you have to get to actually make anything significant from YouTube?
I guess that's kind of tricky because significance would be relative. Well, honestly, I don't know if I could put a number on it. because it does depend more on views than
Okay.
anything else.
Okay. So you could have 100,000 followers, but if everyone stops watching, so it's about the views you get per video.
Right. Yeah. If you're only getting 5 to 10,000 views per video, as opposed to somebody with maybe 50,000 subscribers, but they're getting 100,000 every so often,
Mm.
then that guy's going to be making way more than the guy with twice the number of subscribers.
Okay. So I see also that you're on Twitch, and I'm going to sound old when I ask this question, but I know Twitch is mainly designed for gamers. But how is Twitch different than YouTube?
Yeah, so originally it was made for gamers, but it's kind of evolved into its own thing. There's a whole category called just chatting,
Okay.
where you could pretty much do whatever you want. I mean, honestly, you can really do whatever you want as long as you're not violating the terms of service.
Sure.
So it is a live streaming platform, and it's specifically live streaming.
Okay.
And like you
Okay.
said, it's meant for gaming, so a lot of people are just playing games there. Um, and it's kind of odd. Twitch has its own culture,
Okay.
and it makes it kind of hard to go away from that. Obviously, I can go stream on YouTube. I'd get maybe 5, 6, 7 times more viewers, but it's kind of something that I've built up a little more on my own. It has gotten some assistance from my editor and YouTube as well, but it's kind of something that I started ground up. I wanted to do something different from YouTube because at the time when I started, Brad and Kyle were doing YouTube, and I just said
Mm.
I wanted to do something different.
Okay.
So apart from YouTube and Twitch, specifically live streaming,
Okay.
it was a good way to connect with the community, be able to answer questions in real time,
Gotcha.
and just kind of forge relationships with the community.
Gotcha. Are you
Yeah.
are you a gamer? Are you actively playing any games?
I play Pokemon Go a lot.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's really considered gaming, but that's a game that I've been playing since the release. I've been a big Pokemon kid ever since since it came here. I've been
Gotcha.
playing since I was 6. So I've got quite a few years under my belt playing the game. I do play Valorant occasionally.
Okay.
I'm not great, but I got some buddies that played pretty close to professionally, so they
Wow.
they always give me some tips. We play together, and it's a fun time.
Very cool. Well, let's get into bowling just a little bit. I was wondering if you could share kind of your bowling origin story, how you started, and
Ooh.
kind of what led you through your college years, and then obviously into the pros.
Yeah, well, we'll start at the very beginning, which is kind of funny because my mom bowled a tournament last week. It's called the Hawaiian Tournament here in Vegas, and watching that and everyone that was participating in their group, it was like me watching them bowl league again when I was 12 years old.
Nice.
All the same people. It was pretty funny. But yeah, my mom bowled league every week. My dad owned a pro shop before my brother and I were born.
Okay.
So that, unfortunately, the bowling center closed shortly before I was born. So all the inventory, the drill press, everything was in our garage. Had no idea what it was growing up. Always, messing around with the drill bits, switching them around, and my dad would get pissed off because they're labeled, so you gotta,
Yeah.
it was just being a pain. But I guess my parents probably didn't think that's the direction we were gonna go, or at least didn't anticipate that.
Okay.
We did what most kids did growing up. We played all kinds of sports: golf, baseball, karate.
Mm.
But everything kind of just gravitated towards bowling.
Okay.
And then with that, my dad had some knowledge, pretty big student of the game. He actually drilled our first bowling balls, a couple of plastic balls.
Okay.
Before he ended up selling the drill press to a local pro shop. We started bowling juniors in 2002.
Okay.
My mom took the junior director job or position at Sarah Bowl, and that bowling center is also now closed. It was in Daly City. She worked there for 4 years. Ended up moving to C Bowl, which also just ended up closing this year. My brother
There's
was
a pattern here.
Yeah, bowling centers in NorCal are not faring too well, but hopefully that doesn't last. My brother ended up bowling. He was the youngest bowler of bowl 300.
Wow.
In 2006, and he did it at C Bowl. That was the first time we bowled league there.
How old was he?
He was 10 years in. I don't remember the exact number of months,
Okay.
but he was 10 years old. Yeah. And my mom ended up taking a job there and worked there all the way up until they closed this past May. Yeah, all that kind of just leading up to going to San Jose State. I was pretty fortunate to figure out what I wanted to do before going to college. I know a lot of kids don't have that. I don't want to call it a luxury, but they don't have that kind of foresight, I
Right.
suppose, or commitment.
Right.
I knew I wanted to bowl on tour, so it was
Okay.
easy in college. I made the mistake of going into a very difficult major because high school was a breeze. I didn't really try very hard. I never studied, so I didn't develop good study habits.
Mm.
I always just kind of went to class, understood the material, took the exam, was good enough to pass, and maybe a 3.9 something
Okay.
weighted. So going into college, I was like, I'm gonna challenge myself.
Yeah.
Mechanical engineering.
You're taking a big
Yeah,
old
and
bite out of it.
that was a big wake up call. I couldn't just absorb the information in class because obviously you're only in class 2, maybe 3 times a week.
Okay.
I didn't have the study habit, so I struggled for a little bit. Took me a while to catch up. Uh, that GPA wasn't quite as nice as the high school one, but I had a lot of friends in the major that were really confused. Like they were spending night and
Mm.
day just studying just to pass exams, and I was putting most of my time into bowling, and I was just doing enough to get by. And I was lucky enough to have parents that understood that you just needed to get the piece of paper.
Okay.
You didn't have to get great grades,
Mm.
and they understood what I wanted to do. My dad was a little more on the side of, hey man, you got to get a job, you got to get some experience under your belt, in my head I was like, no, I'm sending it, I'm going full, I'm gonna go pro, I'm gonna live the dream, and we'll see where it takes us. But ended up being, well, I don't know if it's going to be a good backup plan. Hopefully, it's a plan that I'm never going to have to use.
Mm.
And that kind of just led to where we are today.
So, tell me a little bit about your college experience. What are some of your favorite memories from your college
Very
experience?
interesting college experience, I would
College
say.
bowling
So,
experience, I guess. I don't want to know what you did in
yeah,
college, but
yeah. I was very boring. My
okay.
college bowling experience is probably my only bowling or college experience. So I decided to go to San Jose State partially because I didn't want to leave California.
Okay.
And Tony Reyes was the coach the year before. He ended up stepping back from the coaching position the year I came, which I wish he stayed. That would have been really cool. But um, yeah, so halfway I want to stay in California, and partially Tony Reyes,
Okay.
rest in peace.
Gotcha.
My first year was a train wreck.
Mm.
It was full of seniors that they wanted. It was kind of that deal where they wanted to win, but they didn't really know what it took to win.
Mm.
The kind of work, the time, all that.
Right.
There were a handful of guys that I bowled juniors against growing up. They were a handful of years older than me, but um, my first year we won our first couple of tournaments,
Okay.
and we were above the clouds. We were sky high. We were like, yeah, we're gonna win nationals this year, and all that stuff. And as the season progressed, it's never a great sign to start off on such a high, and then because you got to maintain that, and if you can't, then it just starts to weigh on you. So
Mm-hmm.
the season progressed. It wasn't very good, and we went to sectionals, finished last,
Mm.
and knowing what I know now, that's a little rough.
Yeah, I understand.
Especially coming from a team that won a couple of events, and Fresno State won the year prior. They won it all,
Okay.
and they were in our region, our section. We were bowling tournaments against them all the time. So the fact that they were there, we beat them 2 tournaments. We were like, yeah, we're those guys. We definitely weren't those guys. A little bit of drama. Our coach wasn't as knowledgeable as I feel like we needed to be a successful team. Obviously the graduating seniors, they didn't really care as much because they were done.
Mm.
And coming in last place, as somebody that's competitive and wanted to do this for a living,
Mm-hmm.
that was a hard pill to swallow. So we actually had a little bit of disconnect there. I wasn't very happy going home. Didn't speak a single word to anybody on the team because I was upset that we weren't trying our very hardest until the end.
Sure.
And obviously finishing last doesn't help either.
Yeah.
So I was very frustrated. My next year I took a year off. If those that don't know, my brother is 2 years younger than me, so it was a little bit of a selfish move. The team was struggling to stay alive.
Okay.
We had 8 members on the team that year. 5 traveled and 3 were redshirted. I was one of the redshirts. I took the time to develop my skills, focus, a little more on school, and more importantly, I wanted to wait for my brother to see if he were to come to San Jose State. We'd have 3 years together.
Okay.
Because I decided to stay in school for 5.
Okay.
I didn't want to knock out an engineering degree in 4 years because I knew I wouldn't have time to focus on what I wanted to focus on.
Gotcha.
So the team suffered for another year. I felt bad for the guys in my class because we were basically the core of the team. There were
Mm.
3 freshmen the year that I came in. Um, and the following year we ended up recruiting my brother and then another really solid player in the California area. Um, and that's where some of the magic happened. It was
Mm.
it was a lot of fun. We were definitely an underdog team. We were really strong in the West, but as a lot of people know, the West Coast isn't the strongest in the country.
Mm.
But we ended up finishing third
Okay.
at nationals that year in Reno.
Nice.
We took Lindenwood to 7 games
Mm.
in a best of 7. We ended up losing the last game. It came down to the 10th frame. Their anchor threw the first one in the 10th, and then they were really hard. He went Brooklyn left the 5-10.
Mm.
So the situation was I get them all in the 10th. He has to get one to tie, spare to win.
Okay.
I get the first one. I don't get the second one, so they
Oh.
end up making the show. But it hit us pretty hard. This was my 3rd year bowling, so the next year would have been my no. This is my 2nd year bowling, so the 3rd year. Going into the 3rd year, we were fired up because we were this close to going all the way, making
Mhm.
the show and having a chance to bring it all home. We won our first 12 tournaments in a row.
Wow.
So our section in the West, but
So
tier
you had
ones
you
as
had a fire
well.
lit under you at that point.
Yeah, so we won 4 of the tier ones, and they were all in Vegas. We didn't really travel far. The first tournament we didn't win was the Hoosier, and that's kind of the cream of the crop.
Mm.
But we did finish in the top. We made the cut. I think I don't remember how many teams make that cut. It's either 16 or 8. But I think we finished in the top 4, which was pretty cool. We were like, okay, we didn't win, but we're hanging in there with the best of the
Mhm.
best. And the interesting part about this team is we didn't have a bench.
Okay.
So if one of the guys wasn't bowling well, we just kind of had to deal with it. Being in California, it's tough to recruit the better players because they're going to schools that are offering them scholarships or
Gotcha.
have more a better reputation,
Mhm.
somewhere they can develop their skills. We were just kind of a player managed team, and we had a coach that went along with us, but for the most part, it was really on the players to develop themselves and
Mm.
get the job done. So it was really interesting, and that's pretty much where it peaked. My last year, it was more it was a learning year, I think, for me. We did make nationals that year. Very fortunate. The part of the core that I was with, they all graduated because they used their 4 years
Mm.
and they were done with school. So it was me, my brother, Zach Hattori. He was, in my opinion, one of the best junior bowlers in 2012.
Mm.
We somehow convinced him to come bowl with us. So we still had a really strong core. We had a big 3. We had 3 All-Americans. But the rest of the team were just league bowlers at best,
Yeah.
and it was tough. You can't. The Baker games are really tough when you have 3 solid frames, and then it's kind of a 50-50 ball for the other 2.
Right.
So we spent a lot of time putting the work in. I refused to miss nationals my last year, and I knew it kind of wasn't in my hands because it depended on the team as a whole.
Mm.
It wasn't up to one person to just bring it home, but I pushed the guys that were still developing. We had practices 5, 6, 7 times a week. I would run double practices.
Mm.
We had our regular official practice, and then the bowling center would let us come in at night, practice until the bowling alley would close.
Yeah.
We were just running it, and it was really funny. We get to sectionals. It's in Vegas. It's pretty close. So we start 130, 140, 150.
Okay.
One of the players from another rival team walks by and goes, "Oh, San Jose's out." 64 games. We just got done bowling 3. So yeah, after the first block of 4, we're in dead last.
Mm.
And, we're switching some things up. We had a little bit of tension on the team. Guys thinking they should bowl in different spots. Other guys, just kind of the team was a little split.
Yeah.
But in that moment, we switched it up, started bowling a little better at the half. We had the discussion, the one that you always have to have with a team when they're struggling, especially internally. We kind of we let bygones be bygones. We put whatever we needed to behind us, and game 60 of the tournament, we bowled 290
Wow.
to go from 6th to 3rd.
Wow.
and then we held off the last 4 games and ended up making nationals.
Very cool.
And the team that kid came from that walked by, they ended up finishing 5th.
Nice.
So I maybe a little bit of karma, but
Mhm.
it's just kind of funny how everything turned out.
Do you think that early adversity that you experienced in college kind of helped push you forward more so than maybe if you would have had success early?
Sure, I think it was kind of the two-sided coin. We had success super early my freshman year,
Hmm.
but at the same time, the year as a whole was kind of a struggle. So it was definitely a learning experience, and I believe all the experiences you have building up to your big moments in your career play a factor. So that's yeah, definitely for sure.
For anyone that doesn't know, could you explain a little bit how the college format works that make them differ from league and or obviously individual
Sure,
or tour?
yeah. A lot of the events are you bowl 7 games, 7 team games, so it's teams of 5.
Okay.
They're long days. They could be 8, 9, 10 hours on your
Mm.
feet bowling. And if you're not bowling, you're on your feet all day because it's kind of a sin to sit down during a team event.
Right. Right.
You want to be up there supporting your
Right.
team. But yeah, that's one of the formats, 7 games. Or they could split it Baker team games, maybe like 3 team games and a handful of Baker games, or it could just be all Baker.
So when you're doing the
Uh,
7 games, is that each individual bowler is bowling 10 frames on their own?
yeah, it's
Okay.
seven complete games per
So
person.
that's like a league format then. So 7 5-man teams bowling 7 games.
Yeah, so instead of bowling your normal 3, you would
Right.
bowl 7, which is a long day. A lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit to bowl a 5-man 3-game
Yeah.
league night,
Yeah.
and 3.5, 4 hours.
Right.
You imagine
Ooh.
doing it for 7 games?
Jeez.
It's not a fun time. That's the thing I miss most about college isn't the bowling. It's just hanging out with the guys. That
Mm.
was the best part. I get to bowl for a living now,
Right.
and I think the bowling that we're doing now is way more fun than college. But yeah, I miss the guys the most. Just being, we were basically stuck together for 4 years. So
Okay. Very cool.
yeah.
So after college, is that when you uh, were a member of Team USA?
I was fortunate enough to make it my last eligible year as a junior in 2014.
Okay.
So I was still in college. Um, didn't make it again until I was out of college in 2018.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool. 2017 was an odd year. My brother and I. So I was on the junior team in 14. My brother was on the team in 15 and 16,
Okay.
and he ended up winning the gold with the team, the guys in
Mm.
16, I think. And then there's also that there was a little bit of drama involved. With, I don't know if you know, but a lot of people out there know, and it kind of put a bad light on my brother, and
Mm.
he definitely took. I might sound biased because I'm his brother, but he took a lot more from it than he should have,
Mm.
because there's a lot of information that people may not know about the situation, and
Okay.
they're just casting judgment based on what they see
Right.
on the in social media and what USBC puts out. So
Okay.
it was really unfortunate.
I be honest, I don't know the story. Do you
Oh,
feel comfortable
it was
sharing
in
it, or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you want to give some
It's kind
context,
of
your perspective?
old news. Yeah. Basically, Team USA got caught for drinking, and gosh, I gotta tread lightly here with what I say.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot or
Um,
get you in trouble.
yeah, no. Basically, he got in trouble for drinking half a beer.
Okay. So when you're representing Team USA, no
No
alcohol.
alcohol. No,
Okay.
we're not
Okay.
supposed to drink. A lot of the rules changed. It for the adult team, it used to be acceptable, but now just moving forward, image wise and showing face,
Sure.
it's not. It's just they just don't allow it anymore.
Okay.
And it's yeah, it was more of a social thing for him.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't want to put words in his mouth,
Sure.
but he definitely got about maximum punishment for what he did, and it was a decision that he had to make on his own, and he paid for it, which is really unfortunate.
Mm.
And the amount of weight that came with it definitely was not didn't seem fair, but he did break the rules. So, um, yeah, that's about as far as I kind of want to get into it.
Okay. I completely understand. Uh,
Yeah.
what is what requirements are there, and the time commitment too of bowling with Team USA? What does it take to be on the team? And then I'm assuming you have to travel internationally.
Yeah, so to make the team, um, for most, you got to go to Team USA trials. You try out for the team.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll put it out there. You gotta perform well.
Mm.
You gotta try to. There's automatic spots, and then there's coaches picks,
Okay.
tournament picks, and then resume picks. Um, I think a lot of people get a little too far ahead of themselves when they're in range for a pick, but they don't get that automatic spot.
Gotcha.
There's an expectation that I finished. Let's say they give away 4 spots in the top amateur,
Okay.
so that's 5. Let's say someone finishes 6th. There's an expectation that they're going to get picked because they're next in line for the tournament picks, blah, blah, blah. That may not necessarily be the case because it kind of depends on who you are, what you've done. If you're a brand new face and they've never seen you before,
Mm.
and let's say a John Janowicz is in 7th.
Mm.
I know you finished 1 spot ahead of the guy, but I mean, look at
Yeah.
tournament perform based on, they can kind of combine it. So it's not super clear, but it could be tournament performance and based on resume.
Gotcha.
So a little 2-in-1 deal. And, obviously they're going to pick JJ over most faces they've never seen before.
Sure.
So that's where a lot of people get upset about the politics and things like that. But you got to understand this team is trying to field the best possible team
Sure.
possible.
Right.
And when you're given a quarter of the spots away to performance picks, there's no guarantees that they're going to get the best of the best that week.
Right.
And for the PBA guys, we're coming off of not really bowling for how many months, We're
Right.
bowling at our peak all the way through May. And even at the PBA league, we're not at our best because that event isn't really close to anything serious we're bowling. So a lot of guys probably aren't as sharp as they need to be.
Okay.
Which is probably why you don't see people bowling their best. It's partially the format. You see a lot of missed spares. Guys just aren't sharp, and the environment's different. So there's a lot of things that line up for things to be the way it is.
Right.
But it's kind of the same thing here. We're not coming in super sharp, tournament ready, because we're not bowling. We're not bowling any PBA stops. Bowling regionals is one thing, but
Right.
bowling on the tour is a whole different animal. And I think that's another thing a lot of people don't understand is bowling on the tour is so different than any other form of bowling in the world.
Right.
Can
you give us?
But yeah, that's.
I'd say, can you give us a little insight into that? And I even want to ask you, kind of, now that you're done with the 2023 season, what if you had to recap your last tour season?
Sure.
Kind of what
Sure.
are your thoughts on it, and what do you hope to accomplish more in 2024?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's it's not going to be a hard one to answer. First, yeah, bowling the tour. I hear so often, I average 240 in league. Should I try the tour? It kind of, it really depends, You bowl league, average 240 in league. That means you got really good at playing one part of the lane.
Right.
And you could play that part of the lane every single week.
Right.
If that part of the lane's in play on tour, then okay, you might have a chance.
Sure.
But if it more often than not, one part of the lane is only there for so long.
Right. Right.
And the rev rates, the field average combined, it's higher than anywhere you're ever going to bowl. The field average is probably 475, 480,
Mm-hmm.
and it changes the lanes really quick.
Okay.
And it makes the patterns into something else. And we could be bowling on the easiest thing in the world, like the PBA league, that marker off pattern.
Yep.
At Bayside. It's not very difficult when we start, but you give the pros 5-6 games.
Yeah.
It becomes a nightmare. And a lot of people are looking at the scores like, aren't these supposed to be the best bowlers in the world? The lanes don't look that hard. You saw the Baker event, the scores at Bayside, guys averaging 210 there was amazing.
Yeah.
Our high game in the first 5 games was 236. We didn't bowl under 2-0, and we were 5-0.
Wow.
Every game there was maybe 1 or 2 240 games.
Right.
But
yeah,
other than that, we just change the lane so fast, and we make them so tight down lane. And with urethane balls being as prevalent as they are, carrying the oil down the lane as fast as they do, it just makes the lanes really tricky. And you got to have a couple of skills out there that are essentially mandatory. Being able to throw urethane, being able to throw slow and hook the lane, get steep. It's just tough. And a lot of guys that go out there that are just trying, they don't have the angles they need to be successful out there. It's not whether they can or can't. It's just they're not familiar with
Right.
what's going on out there, so they don't really know what to do.
Right.
Not practiced in those kinds of things. So, yeah, it's just different. If you're not out there, you don't really know how. At the end of the day, it is bowling,
Right.
but it's how we get to the scores is a little
Sure.
different. Yeah.
And bowling's like one of the only sports in the world that has an invisible playing surface that you
Hmm.
can't see it. I mean, I guess in golf there's the wind, but you can feel the wind at least to some degree, and you can see it in the
Right.
trees.
But it's one of the only games. It's one of the only games where the players change the playing field.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, yeah. You don't have golfers out there with like hatchets chopping up the greens, and then good luck to the next guy.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, you guys don't fix their ball more, things like that, divots, and
Hmm.
that's kind of. But I don't think that affects the playing field as much as a guy throwing 500 grit, going through fourth arrow. You look at that, and your eyes just get real wide and go, "Oh my god, where am I going to go after that?"
Yeah, yeah. Because the lane's only so wide, you can only get so many angles at some point.
Yeah, the long patterns is a funny story. People try to throw more surface on their bowling balls because they think there's more oil in the lane,
Mm.
but technically, for the most part, if you have the same volume of oil across all the distances, there's less oil per board on a longer
Mm.
pattern.
Makes sense.
So, you're chewing up the lane a lot faster, and you're typically starting closer to the head pin, so you're going to run out of space. You got nowhere to go.
All right, so recap your 2023 season for me.
Yeah, it was abysmal. It was, oh my god, right up there. It might possibly be my worst year on tour.
Mm.
A lot of it was because of my elbow injury.
I see you had your tape on there.
Yeah, it's more of a precautionary thing
Mm.
now. It's getting a lot better. I'd say health wise, I'm close to about 90%.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still feeling it here and there. I don't know if it'll ever go away, or if this is just how I'm gonna have to deal with it. But yeah, this is something that I kind of felt at the beginning of the year at team trials. It was more of a nagging thing. Didn't
Mm.
really hurt back then, so I had no idea what was to come. But I kind of went. I have certain mindsets going into years. I try to make adjustments um, based on previous years and the mistakes I made. So I'm trying to just make better or correct mistakes that I made in the past. I don't want to do the same thing. So I went in. I said, when I go, I'm not thinking about my physical game. I'm just gonna
Mm.
bowl
Okay.
because a lot of the times I get a little too caught up. I get too caught up in what I'm doing physically, and then I'm thinking so much about what my body's doing. I'm not putting enough energy into what my ball is doing on the lane.
Okay.
And they say when you're bowling against yourself, it's really hard to bowl against the best in the world.
Mm.
So you have to give it your all out there on the lanes and behind the foul line. That's all preparation. Um, yeah, I felt like I was throwing it okay for the most part of the year, but looking back at videos, I'm like, that's really not where we need to be successful. So with the injury and just not having great weeks, my best finish was 10th. Didn't make any TV shows. Um, Gosh, I finished 40th in points,
Mm.
and that's by far the worst year I've had in a while. I thought last year wasn't so good. Finished 28th. But I did make a show, and yeah, it's been we got our ups and downs,
Sure.
and on the tour it's just on the whole time. There's no off time. I'm a guy that needs to practice.
Okay.
Figure out the little things. I have early timing. My timing's never been good. Physically, I've never been a player you look at and go, wow, that's a great game. That's somebody that should bowl on the tour. I started working with Mike Jazz now when I first went out on tour, and he told me, he said, if I had no idea who you were and I just looked at your game for what it was, I would assume that you were a 180 legal. And I sat there,
That's great for
wow.
your confidence, right?
Is it that bad? And he looked at me and went, no, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means you're a good bowler
Hmm.
because you can use what you have
Mm.
and you get results.
Hmm.
So in that sense, I went, okay, yeah,
That's
that
a
makes sense.
positive way to
But
look at it.
at the same time, I'm like, man, if you're thinking that about my physical game, it probably needs to be a lot better. So it's been a battle, and that's just something that I've had to battle every single year. And I'm gonna have to keep fighting it for the rest of my career because it's who I am. It's what my body wants to do.
Right.
So it's just unfortunate that I can't be a physically talented specimen like a lot of the other guys out there and just go out there and bowl. But if it's what you want to do, you gotta do what it takes.
On the mental side of things, what is required mentally to bowl on tour?
That's a good question because everybody handles things so differently, and I feel like a lot of the kids these days are way more mature than,
Mm.
at least the guys my age were when they like. I'm gonna throw Brandon Bone in the hat. I got a chance to bowl with him in the Dominican Republic this year, and it might help that he has a Hall of Fame dad.
Maybe a little
But
bit.
the um, bowling wise, he's mature
Mm,
beyond his years so far. He's what 18 or 19 years old, and just his demeanor on the lanes and how he handles himself is way more mature than gosh maybe I was at 22 or 23.
mm,
I'm 30 now, and I'm finally kind of coming into if the results aren't what I want, I'm not freaking out.
right.
So yeah, mentally, it just you can't be able to let what's up here get in the way.
Mm,
I think that's really it. Like, there's guys out there that bowl well when they're mad,
okay.
and they use that as fuel. I don't
That can only last for
necessarily.
so long though, because eventually you're gonna come off
Yeah,
that.
right. You got to be able to have some kind of mindset that you can operate under no matter what.
So how
Some of this.
so how then? In some sense, it seems like the less you care, the better you bowl. However, being you don't want to be careless by caring less.
Sure. Yeah. I
But
don't know if care is the word for it.
but it seems like that if you can have that just consistent demeanor, if you miss a spare, you turn around next frame, and inside he
Sure.
might be just like furious, but he just keeps it calm and goes to the next frame. What is that balance between a guy who gets mad and uses that as fuel to someone like Brandon who may just keep his cool and know that he's going to make it up later on?
That's up to the player. I don't know if
Mm,
I can put something tangible to it
mm-hmm.
because everyone's different. Everyone handles how they feel differently, and I was one of those guys that got really mad before. Just
Mm.
throwing stuff, just losing my mind, and
Yeah.
um, at times I would get locked in. At other times, it would just throw me off the rails,
Mm.
and um, you could just watch the players out on tour. You can tell who means business and who is still just trying to catch a check,
Mm.
just trying to survive. You watch Belma. I think one of the best parts of his game is his mental game.
Mm.
He doesn't let things rattle him. He just goes about his business and he gets it done. And he has the confidence. Obviously, you win that many times. You're the
Sure.
most winningest major player of all time. You're gonna have that confidence. But even before he won all those majors, he was still a very confident guy.
Mm-hmm.
At least when I met him and started watching bowling against him. Just to have the confidence to be able to make mistakes and then look ahead and go, I'll be fine.
Yeah. Do you think that confidence is just a choice?
Confidence is a very interesting conversation. I think it's hard to have if you haven't had success
Mm.
because where does that confidence come
Sure.
from if you haven't done anything?
Right.
Um, yeah, that's at least how I felt. But I feel like you can find confidence in the small moments. And I think that's where a lot of people go missing. A lot of people go the other way. They just go, oh man, I got lucky.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Right.
you could shift the tides in your favor and use that and go, hey, I can do it
Mm.
instead of I got lucky and find a reason why it wasn't you. Yeah, I didn't have much confidence at all when I was first on tour and believing that I could lead tournaments. I always thought I got to be a low seed on a show and work my way up the ladder. I didn't know I could lead tournaments until I went overseas. Um, I led an entire field. I was in Korea, I think, and Simo Troop,
Mm.
Daniel McEwen, my brother was bowling. A lot of really good players were there, and I led the squad,
Mm.
and that was kind of a moment for me. I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Hey, I can do it." There's I'm bowling against some of the best players in the world. They're international team members from Malaysia,
Mm.
Singapore, all these great Asian teams, and I led them all. So
Right.
now I'm thinking, if I can do it here, why can't I do it back home?
Yeah.
So I think that kind of unlocked a little bit confidence for myself. And I think this was when my first year was 17, I think over there, maybe 18.
Okay.
So it was pretty early, but I did end up leading the Hall of Fame Classic, um, maybe a year or two later, and yeah, I do believe that I am good enough to bowl out there, and obviously the results speak for themselves. But I do feel like I have the confidence to go out there and do what I need to do and have success. So just finding confidence in the little moments,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is the stepping stone to creating bigger moments. And then once you have those bigger moments, obviously opened the floodgates, and now you believe you can conquer the world.
Uh, just out of curiosity, because I don't know that many people realize how difficult it is to make a living on tour, with the expenses and travel and everything else that goes into it. Where do you typically have to finish in points to break even? Like, granted, I know points are you could actually win a lot of money and not have a lot of points.
Right.
So maybe points isn't the right question. Maybe it's just earnings.
That's a tough one because I feel like if you're just going out there, you're gonna have to build the rabbit squads, the
Mm,
PTQs, just to get into the tournaments. So that alone is going to be a bigger expense because you're spending more days at each event.
mm,
Um, but I would say you got a budget probably, and this is going to be on the high side. I think you got a budget probably between 25 and 30,000
wow.
for expenses because every tournament's $500. Um, so you take that into account. That's what we bowl 16, 17 events. So you're already in for, let's call it 8,000 for just tournament entries alone.
Yeah.
And then obviously you got your flights, you got gas, you got hotel, the travel expenses. So all of that combined, I'd say would add up to about 25 to 30,000.
Wow.
I'm a little more fortunate. My dad works for United.
Okay.
So I do have that benefit of flying for free. So my expenses are going to be a little bit lower than most. Um, but I probably was close to breaking even this year, maybe a little bit in the hole at
Okay.
about 15,000 in
Okay.
earnings,
Okay.
which yeah, it's tough. I was 40th in points. And now you're looking at that and going, okay, the guy that's 40th in points just bowled on tour for free.
Yeah.
You got, you basically just got to go out there and have the experience and fun and, well, I guess dread as well. It's just not a fun time when you're not bowling well, but um, that's not very, it's not good when you look at the 40th ranked player and they're not making any money.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
tough. I mean, I think to make a good living, you got to be in the top 10.
So you just finished up PBA League and you were on the New York City Kingpins. What was your overall experience in PBA League?
Yeah, it's always a fun time, especially I think this year was really cool because I got to bowl with a lot of my friends.
Okay.
I mean, they were all my friends, I got to bowl with my brother as well. So I felt like team chemistry was about as peak as it could have been. There wasn't another team that I thought had better chemistry than us.
Mm.
We're all about the same age. We're all buddies. In a way, people could look at that and go, "Oh, it's politics. They're just picking their friends." But I mean, you look at every single bowler on that team, fairly successful.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's just a tough tournament to win, and the fact that Portland did it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
Keep in mind they are bowling at home, so I guess that gives
A
a
little
little bit of an
advantage,
advantage.
yeah.
But I mean, even still, you got 5 guys throwing 2 shots per game,
Right.
and it's so it's just tough. It's a
Yeah.
tough tournament to progress through because you can have 1 or 2 guys that are off, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're bowling against the best,
Right.
It's-
Right.
You can't have anyone take any time off, and it just kind of doesn't line up for the Kingpins as of late. The last few years has been a little rough. We were fortunate enough to qualify high, so we were guaranteed to not finish last again. But even the years that we finished 10th, we didn't bowl bad on the shows. We just got
Yeah.
out bowled,
Right.
outscored. We were losing games like 250 to 240,
Right.
240, 230. It was just close.
Yeah. All right. Favorite bowling memory, and if you want to share, worst bowling memory, the one you'd like to forget.
Favorite and worst. Well, I don't know if it's kind of a 2-1. Obviously, winning the first title, it's a feeling like no other. It's a huge weight lifted off your shoulders, and then that first event back when you see your banner alongside the rest of your peers, it's a pretty surreal feeling. Like it's like nothing else. Most memorable and probably worst memory, the doubles.
Mm.
When I made the show with my brother and we ran the ladder, we ended up losing to Belmo and Bill, which it's Belmo and Bill, like 2 of the probably best bowlers that are ever going to grace the lanes. But as competitors, we're not looking at them like that. We're going, we want to win. We're going to do what it takes to beat their number.
Sure.
Mikey bowled great the entire show. Had some really big moments. I just didn't have the tools at the time to do what I needed to do to give him enough for us to get over the hump. And that would have been both of our first titles. And
Mm.
to share that first title with him, that would have been pretty special. So after that, I took that hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
We didn't win. I missed a spare on the left lane, but I think beyond missing the spare, I hadn't thrown a strike in 7 or 8 shots. So at what point, you change balls, do something different.
Right.
Yeah, I was bowling really good. I just didn't have good ball reaction, and Bill and Belmo knew that. They had me finish the game for that reason. You know, if I don't know if it was sincere or not, but Bill came up to me after the game. He said, "Dude, you bowled a great game."
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm kind of lost my emotions. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Is he just being? Is he just saying that because he won, or did I actually bowl good? I don't know.
Yeah.
But looking back, I watched it. I was like, I did bowl pretty good.
Yeah.
Is they got the way that league gets. It's mega cliff. There's so much oil in the middle lane. They hook way too much if you get to the right too fast.
Right.
And that's something that the pros hate bowling on, because our games are meant to bowl when they're flatter, they're blended. We have to throw it to the right,
Right.
get it to come around the corner, and blah blah blah. We miss left, we pay the price, and in this way we miss left, we pay the price in a different way.
Right.
But that's probably my most memorable moment. Just missing that 10 pin, riding the wave, getting to the show. We were pretty fortunate in some respects, but we bowled really well on that show. And if we had maybe 2 or 3 more years under our belt,
Yeah.
I think we win that title.
Yeah. What are you most looking forward to for the 2024 season?
2024, that's my redemption year. I think it's about time that I just get up and do something about it. I haven't bowled well since before COVID.
Okay.
COVID was my best year. I was 10th in points. I was the highest player in the points standings without a title. I made a handful of shows. I would have bowled on the USA versus the World show if COVID didn't happen, which would have been really cool, because Chris Vi, my roommate, he would have made that show as well. So I was really looking forward to that. And funny enough, Bill was actually going to be on that show as well, and we were kind of talking. Like, what's the lineup going to be? And he's like, dude, if the black ball's in play, I want D-Tang on the bottom. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Bill O'Neill wants me to bowl anchor on this team. I think the other 2 players would have been EJ and Butters.
Okay.
And a team full of superstars like that, you want me to anchor? Okay.
Yeah.
That's very endearing.
Yeah, for sure.
2024 is just getting back on the horse, making some shows, and hopefully winning some titles, because it's been too long. I haven't won on TV yet, and bowling the league show, I felt really comfortable, actually. About as comfortable as you can feel on a show like that.
Sure.
But I felt really good, and I feel like I've been bowling well on the league show. So a lot of it before was just because I'm so sensitive physically, things just get off, and when you're put into an atmosphere that's just a little different, it only takes a little bit to kind of throw you off when you're that sensitive physically with timing. And a lot of the shows that I kind of have that over my left toe thing because I'm a little early.
Okay.
But it's just time for me to be me and do bigger things.
So what things do you like to do off the lanes? Do you have any hobbies? Anything outside of bowling?
Yeah, I like to play golf.
Okay.
I'm not the greatest, but I've broken 81 times, so that's my kind of claim to fame in golf. Like, that's something that not a lot of people get to enjoy. And I made a really tough putt to get there too.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. Aside from that, I just stream, make content.
Yeah.
My life is pretty simple. I go to work, come home. It's not even really work. I go practice, I go to the gym, and then I entertain the people.
How would your friends and family describe you, those who know you best?
Oh, gosh, that's a tough one. I don't like putting words in other people's mouths. Probably, I think hardworking would be one of them. I don't think I get to where I am without the work, especially with, talking about how 180-ish my physical game is. That's just a question that you're going to have to ask the people around me. I don't like answering these questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who or what has been your greatest teacher?
Ooh, I think experience has been my greatest teacher among all things, because there's nothing like getting kicked in the face and not wanting that to happen again, you know?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, probably my dad.
Okay.
He's taught us a lot of life lessons, and you know, a lot of them we didn't want to listen to growing up, but looking back, you go, okay, maybe there was some merit to it.
What makes you feel most alive?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm getting a little deep now.
Yeah, I mean, at the simplest, very in a remedial way, I could just say winning tournaments. Yeah, that just running the table around guys, but riding roller coasters is pretty fun. Yeah, that gives you a kind of a different feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, a little thrill seeking.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite piece of equipment right now?
I don't like to say favorites, because if you have favorites, you have balls you don't like. And if you don't have balls you don't like, you're a little opposed to throwing them at time. But I will say the ball that I've been throwing a lot. Yeah, ball I've been throwing a lot. The Tour Dynamics from Roto Grip.
Okay.
That ball's been very, very good for me.
I'm actually having your roommate Chris Vi on the show in a couple weeks. So what question should I ask him?
Oh, at his peak weight, or at his peak physique, how heavy was he?
Okay.
And how was the shirt that I gave him doing?
Okay.
Because my man used to be, oh my God, he was enormous. Like not enormous, like he was just unbelievably jacked.
So he's a big gym rat?
Probably a lot of fitness questions. Not as much as he used to be, because I don't think it helps with the bowling to be that big.
Right.
You lose a little bit of flexibility when you have that much muscle. But
right.
Yeah, he was big.
All right, so last question. Is there a question that you wish people would ask you? So I know on tour you probably get a lot of fans coming up to you asking random questions, but is there ever a question you're like, I wish you guys would ask this?
No, actually, I don't think so. I just kind of take it as it comes and just do what I do. I gotta,
cool.
Bowling's given me so much. I just gotta do my best to give back.
Well, how can people find you? I mean, probably everyone that bowls already knows how to find you. But if for anyone,
type in bowling on the internet.
Yeah. But how can people find you? Obviously, YouTube channel.
YouTube, Instagram. If they really want to take bowling seriously and start to learn a little more, we have a website called howtobowl.com that we just launched a little while ago.
Okay.
So if they want to check that out, it is a paid subscription service, but there's a lot of videos in there. We have a whole library full of educational things that we're trying to help people. It's basically a little D-Tang in your back pocket.
Gotcha.
But all social media, vitamin D-Tang.
Cool.
For the most part.
Well, Darren, I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed talking to you, and hearing all your stories has been really fun. Good luck next season. Hopefully have you back on to talk about winning some tournaments.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Please share this episode with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time on The Bowler's Mind.